So Angela, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How's life in Hawaii?
It's great. My brother just got married, and that was just so fun and so amazing to be a part of. And yeah, now it's time to get back to it.
We'll come to that in a minute. How was the wedding? It looks like, is there anywhere better on the planet to get married than Hawaii?
Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. It took place in Waimea Valley, and they got to go take pictures underneath, like by the waterfall, and it was just beautiful, beautiful wedding.
Wow. Right, let's get to the business then. Denice Zamboanga. Looks like she's going to be your next opponent. Is that what you've heard your end?
Yes, I've seen that a lot recently, and she had a great fight with May. I was definitely watching that, and yeah, I'm excited to get back in there and defend my title.
What do you think of Denice? I mean, she's kind of popped up from nowhere. Suddenly two great performances against Gian and then May. What are your thoughts on her as an opponent?
Well, I think for the atomweight division, it's they were trying to sort out the top contenders and to see who's next in line for a title shot. And I feel like a lot of the girls were rising and they were winning their fights and things like that. But this fight right here, when she fought May, I think that was pretty clear who was going to be next challenging for the title. And she had a great performance. And yeah, now I know who my next fight is against.
I don't know if you saw my interview of her after. She said you're her idol. That gives it an extra little, interesting little spin to the contest.
I think that Denice, she is definitely, very talented, rising star and won championship for sure. And, I admire that. She reminds me of myself when I was starting out in one, just loving it, enjoying it, hungry to learn and climb up the ranks. And, everyone's end goal is to become champion. And, she's got that opportunity now.
Do you know when that might happen, on which card? There's talk of Manila, which obviously she's a Filipina. Your brother's on that card. Do you think it might be on that card?
Um, You know what? I didn't get any notice from one yet regarding where the fight will be. So for now, I'm just training. I know who my opponent is, and I'm just staying ready.
Do you have a preference? Obviously, be competing on the same card as Christian, which can be good, can be bad. It's one of them ones.
Yeah, it's a pretty stressful thing for us and our family. The last event that we were both on worked out both in our favor, and it worked out really well. But it was still really stressful, even though we had maybe 2 or 3 fights apart. And now with Christian defending his world title for the very first time, I if it was up to me, I would personally choose to fight on another card and give him, his time to shine and all the focus be on Christian.
I think so. I think that'd be a good choice. Also fighting on King of the Jungle was Tiffany Teo, who's probably now going to have the rematch with Xiong Jing Nan. What do you make of Tiffany? I mean, she just seems to pull out the results out of the bag every time.
I think that we haven't seen her compete for a while, and I think I heard it was due to injuries and something and stuff like that. Injuries get the worst out of the fighters, and I'm glad to see her back in competing.
Yeah, so that card was competed behind closed doors. We don't know what's happening forward. More and more events are getting closed or competing behind closed doors. Could you see yourself possibly competing behind closed doors? And if so, how do you think that would feel?
I think that one championship, they always have the best in mind for, the fighters, for their staff, and also for the fans. And, we never know what's going on right now in the world. And the last thing we want is people getting, sick. So I think that, in the end, one championship is going to make the decision based on what they feel is best for everyone. But for me, it doesn't really matter too much fighting in front of a crowd or behind closed doors. Of course, I love to see all my fans, and it would be a shame for that. But at the end of the day, we step in the cage, the door closes, and it's just the two of us fighting. So I don't think it'll make too much of a difference.
Since you last competed, Xiong Jing Nan has moved to Evolve MMA. Obviously, you're not there all the time, but how will that affect if you, obviously when you do have that trilogy, you're normally there a little bit in Singapore if it's in Singapore. Could that play any factor?
Mm-hmm. I was pretty surprised, to be honest. But, since I moved back home, I was living in Singapore for almost 3 years. That's obviously where I met my husband. And then we both decided we'd move to Hawaii. And, I'd relocate here. And I trained here at United MMA with my brother, my husband, my dad. And I feel like, this is where I started. And, this is where my heart is. This is where I belong. And my family has gotten me ready for every single competition of my life, every single match. So I'm very confident in that. And I have good friends, good teammates at Evolve MMA. I have nothing bad to say. I still represent Evolve, so it's a little bit tricky. But, I'm also Evolve MMA and United MMA, so we're representing two gyms. And I'm just so excited for that matchup. I'm anticipating it, and hopefully that happens this year.
Does that put a little bit of extra pressure on your match with Denice and Xiong Jing Nan against Tiffany, to a certain extent, that we both kind of, not that they were biased, want you both to win to make that trilogy fight?
I don't think so necessarily. I think it's two separate things. For me, obviously my atomweight world title is extremely important to me, and I wanted to stay active and defend that title against top contenders. And so that's my next fight in line. But my goal is also, to remain undefeated, but also to achieve that goal of mine, which is the strawweight world title. And so it's not really like overlooking, but it's two big goals that I see coming up in the very near future.
Talking of strawweights, there was a huge strawweight fight this past weekend at UFC 248, Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Did you watch that?
Oh yes, that was an incredible fight, and my heart was racing the entire time. Both women are so tough, so talented, and we need to see more women's MMA fights like that. Like that's why we do what we do, to get that kind of respect and recognition, and they did a hell of a job.
I guess you know a thing or two about competing against tough Chinese strawweights.
I'm really happy for Zhang, and she defended her title for the first time against Johanna, who was champ for a long time, and it was a great fight. I have a feeling that UFC might want to do that again. That would be exciting.
Did you agree with the decision?
Yeah, I did. I thought she won the fight for sure.
How much do you watch other promotions? How much do you watch One Championship? How much do you keep in touch with, especially, I guess, your potential opponents?
I am just a fight fan. As well as being a fighter and a world champion myself, I'm just a fan of the game. And so I'm definitely, me and my family, we're sitting down all the time, Friday, Saturday nights, and watching the fights together.
And a lot's been made recently of the scoring in the UFC. One possible solution is the way One Championship score the fight as a whole rather than per round. How do you see the scoring? How do you see the scoring as a fight as a whole compared to per round?
Well, I think it's two different ways of scoring and judging. As a fighter, I always push to finish, and I'm glad that One Championship scores the way they do, because I think it makes fights more exciting and puts that pressure, that urgency on fighters to finish the fight. And that's what everyone's goal is, to make it a decisive victory.
Do you think that might be a possible solution for UFC to judge fights as a whole? I
think it would be, a very different way of doing things, since they've been doing that for, the entire, pretty much that's how they've been running their show. It's very different. But it's kind of, when you see, especially in the world title fights, in the 5-round matches, you can almost see the fighters, if they are up 2 or 3 rounds, and then they can kind of have like, okay, in the back of their mind, I got those 3 in the bag and I'm just going to play it safe. But I mean, sometimes you never know what the judges like. That's not always the case, and then you think you won it and then you didn't. So I think if you just always pushed it for the finish and you have that urgency, then it's the decision's probably going to be in your favor more.
This past weekend was International Women's Day. What does it mean to you to represent females in mixed martial arts?
Honestly, it's one of the biggest honors that I could have. Just me and striving to accomplish my goals, but also realizing that I have so many people around the world who follow my journey, who know my story, and admire me for what I do. It gives me strength, and it gives me encouragement to keep moving forward and to keep achieving greatness.
Another female championship in one is Stamp Fairtex, potential future opponent for you. What are your thoughts on Stamp and her sort of journey through mixed martial arts?
I think Stamp is an amazing athlete. Another young rising star, a young star in one championship, and what she's accomplished at such a young age is really remarkable, and I applaud her for her achievements. And I know she just recently fought, and it was a really tough fight against Janet Todd, who I also met before. She's an incredible athlete, so I congratulated Janet for winning the world title, but I also feel for Stamp because I know what it's like to be on the losing end of a match, and when you put so much heart into your training, into your fight, and to have it not go your way is it's I just hope she doesn't beat herself up too much about it, and she holds her head up and just get back to training. And that's what losses are there for us to grow, really.
I was just about to say, yeah, I mean, losses, you can take it two ways. You can let it defeat you, or you can come back stronger. I think all the greatest champions have dealt with losses better than anyone.
Thank you.
Lastly, just want to ask you, it's a new decade. What's your big plans, your big goals for the next 10 years? Not necessarily just in the fight game, but just in general.
Oh man, 10 years. We can do a lot in 10 years. I set a lot of goals for myself, whether they be personal goals or whether they be, business related or on a physical level. I just think that I try to make small goals along the way, and then really kind of have a general picture of where I would like to see myself and what I'd like to be doing. Because there's so much that can happen, so many things that can change in 10 years, and you never know what to expect. Life is funny that way. For me, the main things is, keeping my family close, but also finding a way to give back to the community, to the next generation of kids, growing up, aspiring to be professional fighters and world champions, and seeing how I can give back to them, because I was lucky and I had the opportunity to make my dreams come true, and to give someone else that kind of chance, or to shed some knowledge or experience, would be something that I definitely want to do. So trying to figure that out.
That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for today. Can't wait to see you versus Denice and your brother Christian defend his title. Look forward to it in the upcoming months.
All right. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.